we're still dancing, JD. But I think if we're a cat with 9 lives, we may have lost one there. Uh, we had
Uh,
it. It was a great game, but there was a lot to unpack from that game, though. Um, but it was. If we're gonna start with the positives, Cooper. It was the Cooper Flagg show from the moment he came back in the first half with about 7 minutes and 30 seconds to go. He just decided Duke was not going to lose that game,
nope.
and he completely took over. The end of the first half, the start of the second half was all Cooper Flagg. It was just all Cooper Flagg, whether it was scoring, and then he had a run in the start of the second half where it was like several alley oops in a row. One of
Oh,
which, one of which he almost was falling over, and then was like, "Oh, there's Malawach. I'll throw that up there." And he broke the press and found Mal. There was the one at the end of the game which Mal didn't convert, but the shot clock was expiring, and he had the presence of mind to throw it up to Malawach. I mean, just what a game from Cooper Flagg.
and let's give good old Caleb Love his due.
Yes.
I think he was at 33. It may have been 35. I don't know how many he finished with at the end of the game. Great, great effort. Caleb tried to will them back as much as Coop. You know, we believe in Flagg, and we knew that Coop would just carry us. Is as much as Caleb Love tried to beat Duke, and he had just a terrific, terrific game. He didn't start that way, but he just a terrific game.
He finished with 35. There's a point in the second half where I think he had 13 straight points for Arizona. At least he may have got more of that, but at least 13 straight for Arizona. Wasn't a 13-0 run, but he had their like last 13 points. He was hitting, as you said, start off a bit slow for Caleb Love, but then we let him get open a couple of times from three. He got some free throws, found a rhythm, and then all of a sudden he started hitting tough shots. And he was the Arizona offense for large stretches of the second half until he started to get some help. Whether that was Vasar, who had a really good game for Arizona. Bradley had some buckets in the second half, and then Carter Bryant had some timely buckets for them towards the end of the second half. So Duke had about all they could ask for from Arizona, and I don't want any more. Okay, that's about as much as I'd like as a Duke fan.
Well, I found it in my notes that it was Caleb Love had scored 13 points in a row, and Duke was still up at that point, 78-66. They still had a 12-point lead despite Love's incredible effort. And that that is why you're absolutely right. The rest of the team, in order to get from 66 to 93, Caleb had some help at the end, and that was, it was great.
it it was a great game, like a highly competitive game. Especially like there's large stretches towards the end of the first half where it was Arizona bucket, Duke response, Arizona bucket, Duke response. It just kept going back and forth until what this game was 193, right? That was the final score.
Yes,
So
yes.
how big was the end of the first half with Khan hitting the three, Love missing a step back three, leaving time on the clock for Cooper to go down and hit his three, which ended up, it was 42-42, ends up as 48-42, Duke up by 6 because of that. I think it was a 40-second stretch. Duke carried that into the start of the second half, and in game time, they went on a 20-5 run. That's where I cut it off. It continued after that, but it was a 20-5 run in 5 minutes.
Right, and it was at the 13:21 mark that Gangba had a great move to the basket And that gave us our largest lead, which was 70-51. We were up 19 at that point. And with 13:21, 19-point lead, we both are texting to each other. We're going, this is great, but there's a lot of time left.
Sure was. And for all of us who watched Arizona in the round of 32 game against Oregon, they were down 19, was it? Early, or 17 or 19 within the first 5 minutes. And then they had the lead by the end of the first half. So we knew this Arizona team was fully capable of making a run and getting back into the game. And they sure did. And they were able to make it competitive. They started going a little bit of their run. Coop went to the bench for a little bit of a breather. They started to go on a little bit of a run then. And then I felt like towards the end of the game, our big guys being in foul trouble was a big factor.
Big factor.
Especially when Malawach picked up his fourth foul and had to go to the bench. He was playing really well on both sides of the ball with his ability to convert. He had a really nice, like, I think it was a left-handed like jump hook over Vasar after Proctor had dumped it off to him. Um, he had a really good second half. It started off early. He played well throughout. I thought also, I mean, listen, this was this was the Cooper Flagg game. We could spend the entirety of the remainder of this show talking about Cooper Flagg. But I also felt like Khan had a really solid game.
Well,
He
I'm glad you went to Khan, because down the stretch, when they kept fouling, of all people, a 91% free throw shooter, he goes at least 4 for 4 in the clutch period of the game to keep the lead at that 8-point mark or 6-point mark. So
Yep.
he finished with 20.
Yes. And it was so I know you didn't watch the Georgia Tech game in the ACC tournament, but it was the same exact game plan there where Sion James, Sion our savior, because he hit a lot of timely shots, especially his three with about 4 minutes to go, which brought the lead back out to, I think, 9. Um, he made sure to get Khan the ball down the stretch. And as a team, I thought we did a good job of getting Khan the ball, but that's the game plan. I mean, how could it not be? He's the best 3 point. I mean, sorry, he's the best free throw shooter. It's late on this team. He shoots 91%, as you said. If there's anybody who you want to have the ball with clutch free throws, it's Khan Knippel.
Yeah, it's 1/4 to 1 here in the East Coast. But Jack, if you can pull up Duke's stats, let's just quickly look at this, because if Coop had 30 and Khan had 20, that's 50, and we finished with 100, there's got to be a lot of other credit to go around there for 50 points. I think Sion for certain was in double figures. He hit 3 of 4 open threes, I think, but I mean, he nailed them.
Nailed
So
him. He
what
had
was the
16. Sion had 16
he had
for
a
assists.
solid game.
He did. We'll talk about some of the areas where we're gonna have to be better against Alabama. We can say that now, but we'll save that for a few minutes down the road. Malawach had 13 points, including 4 block shots. Him and Cooper combined for all 7 of Duke's block shots, which is why his foul trouble was so significant. Gangba gave us 8 points off the bench. Proctor only had 7 today. Kind of knew, he might come back down to earth, but I was hoping at least that would be like a 12 to 15 point game. Not his best performance today. And we had a 3 apiece from Gillis and Evans, and that was all the scoring. JD, we lost your sound. Where'd your headphones go? All right, we're gonna have to see what happened with JD. So I'll keep going here as JD figures out the audio over there. Nope, Okay. All right. We're gonna keep going. So, listen, this was a a great win for Duke. It was a hard fought game. It was a game that went back and forth, and there's a lot that Duke can build off of heading into. I mean, it's already Friday, so this game Saturday against Alabama. Let's head to the chat quickly here. See if JD can get his audio back on track for us. Let me just double check here. He'll be back here shortly. All right. So let's go to chat. Joe M. Caleb Love can't hurt us anymore. No, he cannot, but he certainly did his best today um, to to put Arizona through to the next round, and he had a great game. I'm gonna see if I can get JD back here. Try something, JD.
You there?
Yes. All right, we are back. You're back. All right,
Okay. All
we're
right.
with the chat now. We're with the chat.
Stay with the chat.
All right, Marcus Styles, and now Duke has retired Caleb Love, and that's a good message, Marcus, because throughout the week, I the whole talking point behind this game was not Duke versus Arizona. It was Caleb Love versus Duke. And so much so to the point that Coach Lloyd, who I think is a very good coach, had to say, this is not Duke versus, North Carolina. This is Duke versus Arizona. This is not, it has nothing to do with that. And I, I agreed with him. And it was, listen, that was a narrative coming into this game. And Caleb Love certainly showed up. Again, got to give him credit. He had 35 points. But this was about Duke versus Arizona. And the difference of this game was, I mean, Caleb Love and Cooper Flagg pretty much canceled each other out. It was the other guys that, decided this game. It was the rest of the Duke roster versus the rest of Arizona. North City, how history repeats itself. Caleb Love got a switch on, a big again at the end, at the top of the key, but this time the big one. North City, I didn't think about that, but that's a great point. That was a huge block by Malawach.
Huge block. Huge. Great point. Great
Yeah,
point.
great point. So much so that I want to go back and call out the time that was remaining here. JD, do you have anything you want to say while I figure that out?
On Mal's block there?
Yes. Yes.
Well, it was great because remember, there was not the best announced game and not the best officiated game, but I kind of feel like it went both ways. So I'm not going to just the way it is. It's hard in a game in which there's so much contact. It really is hard to officiate, but it's the way it goes.
We're gonna talk about that. I'm just saving that for a little bit here. But that block happened. The score was 89-83 with 2 minutes and 40 seconds to go. So with the way Caleb Love was shooting, I'm assuming that ball was going in. So great point, North City. It was a huge block by Kaman Malawach in a key moment of the game. Joe
and then it was following that there was another alley-oop to Mal that he missed.
Yes.
But there was a foul on Arizona. But okay.
Yes. Joe M. The run that Duke had at the end of the half into the second half was amazing, but it was awful watching Arizona catch back up. The fouls hurt our big guys, but Malawach ended up having some big plays. He sure did. Malawach had some big moments in this game. And whether it was his shot blocking, his presence around the rim, or his ability to be a lob threat on the other end of the court, he had 13 points in this one, and he made, I think it was five or six shots. I think 6 shots. He was 6 for 8 from the field. I think 4 of those were on alley-oops.
Yes, but the other one was like a lefty. It was a great um, hook shot. It was terrific.
Oh, actually, okay. I thought you were calling out a different play, but that was terrific. I was thinking of there was the lob to start the second half from Khan to Mal, which he like tips in. He couldn't get to it.
Yes.
He was
Oh my
pushed.
goodness. He just had his hand out there and managed to just basically lay it in. It
Yeah,
was
it was like almost like I mean, this isn't a great example, but almost like volleyball. You know, you're over the net, you're just tapping it, you know, kind of in, but he's guiding it. He's got really great touch, as you said. Those two plays, really good game from Malawach, as long as he was able to be on the court. Raheem Jones, the refs were atrocious. This is why I said we're gonna get to the refs. There's a few comments. The refs were atrocious. If not for them, Duke wins by 20. Arizona shot less than 50% from the field. So I think this is going to come up a few times. Duke finished the game shooting 60% from the field. 45% was Arizona, as you said, Raheem. And look, Duke finished with 27 free throws to 23 for Arizona, but we know a bunch of those were at the end of the game when Arizona was trying to lengthen the game and give themselves an opportunity. To your point, JD, from earlier, I did think this was a game that was officiated poorly on both sides, but I felt like in different ways. And the way I saw it, and give your take here, JD, was Duke was called for a lot of fouls that I thought were questionable. And on the other side, I felt like Arizona, there were several times whether it was balls going out of bounds, loose ball, questionable calls, etc., where Arizona, I felt like could have got the ball on 3 or 4 times where it went out of bounds are the plays that I'm thinking of, and they didn't. And so I just felt like no matter what, this is what I feel like we can all agree, Duke and Arizona fans, these refs should not move on to the Elite Eight. I know they're all graded. They should not move on. This is where their tournament should end. I thought this was the worst officiated Duke game I've watched this season.
I don't have much to add to it other than in the end, we had 26 free throws. Yes. Khan got a bunch at the end there. They had 24. But what were the total fouls, Jack?
Total fouls: Arizona 24, Duke 22. Again, some of that was Arizona at the end of the game, so it ended up being relatively even in total fouls called. And I think at the same time we're upset. I'm sure Arizona fans are like, if the refs wouldn't have called this, we would have won the game. So it's one of those things where if you're the ref, you go home, everyone's angry at you. You probably feel like you did an all right job if everyone's upset, right?
So it brings to mind the movie Friday Night Lights, when they play Carter for the championship, and there's just one penalty after another, and one team is like just being brutalized by the size of Carter. And then the game is over, but the guy tried to, extend his arm to get into the end zone, but he comes up short and Carter wins. And the refs in the game go, game over, grab the ball. Don't even grab the ball. They just run off the court, off the field to get out of there because there was so much yelling at them. But look, what are you gonna do? It's a. I was listening to the Old Man and the Three today, and Dante DiVincenzo was on, and Dante said it there too. I love the game. I love playing. I would never want to be a ref.
Yeah. I mean, it's a thankless job. You get to be in some. You get to meet
One
some good
guy's
players.
happy. One guy's unhappy every time you make a call.
Well,
Just about.
just about,
So.
yeah. Very rarely are they not. Let's see. Let's keep going here. Joe M. Proctor started off hot, but it looked like
Yes.
he did. He was being guarded heavily. He did start off hot. That's a great point, Joe. And then he kind of, I don't know. I don't know what the right word would be. It was he kind of, it was one of those games like from the beginning of the season where he would have a good first half and not have a good second half. I thought the three he took towards the end of the second half, towards the end of the game, it wasn't even close. Which from him as of late was very surprising. We're gonna need him to get back to what he was doing in the first two games against Alabama, or at least much closer to that.
And his 7 points came in the second segment, basically,
Yep,
with a 3-pointer, a 2-pointer, really nice drive. And then,
that was it.
boy, and I don't know if they couldn't find him. I'm sure that is something Coach Shire is going to point out to say, look, especially going into the next game, I was saying early on that incredible contributions from everybody, and that is one of the reasons, along with Cooper Flagg, would not let us lose. But we're going to need a very balanced attack against Alabama. But we'll save that for tomorrow.
Yes, probably late afternoon tomorrow.
I
We're
know
gonna need some time. We're gonna need some
we're
time.
going to need a little time.
Okay, Lawrence Freeman. This is the first game I can remember that our opponent got into the double bonus in each half, and then he has an emoji. It's like the eyeglass emoji where you're kind of questioning what happened there. Joe M says that's crazy. I agree. That is crazy. I think that just goes into kind of what we've been talking about with the officiating of this game. And it was weird because the second half, it started off where Duke got to the free throw line immediately. They're evening that out. And then,
Three quick calls on Arizona.
right. And then there were four fouls on Duke, and Arizona didn't get to their fourth foul until at least 8 or 9 minutes into the second half. So it was the problem was the consistency. There was calls on both sides. I know the broadcast brought up the hook and hold. I did think there was a bit of a difference between Gangba and Bradley on what they did, but the overall consistency just wasn't there from the guys in the stripes tonight. Maybe they were tired. Who knows? Um, Nathan Nathan Mabeo. It was nice to see Brown in for a little bit. Well, I will say it
Yep,
was
go ahead.
good to have him because we had Gangba with 3 fouls and Malawach with 2, and I would love to see if in the post game press conference they asked Shire what he would have done if Brown wasn't available because it was great to know that he was available. It seemed like the game plan was to only use him if we needed him, and we got into a situation where we absolutely needed him, and right away he Vasar tries to go up, he strips him. I thought that was off of Vasar, but we'll try to move past some of this. And he ends up with a steal off of a missed shot where Arizona's trying to get out. It leads to a Duke bucket. He played a couple minutes, and it was good to get him in for a few minutes because against Alabama, we are going to need him.
Yep. I mean, but it was just classic. I mean, it was with his, what is it? It's his left shoulder that's separated. So it was with his right hand. So it's almost like if he can play the game with one arm, and a lot of players favor one arm, but boy, I'm glad he didn't come back in the game. It was nice to see him, nice to have him, but I'm glad that we managed to get there without him. 2 more days. I don't know. We'll see how much we have him on Saturday.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think he'll play more than 10 minutes. Um, but it's nice to know that he is available. And yeah, we'll see. And go ahead.
Well, and one other point about the about Gangba was that when in our pregame, and then all of the comments that came in from our listeners saying the Patrick Gamba didn't play the first time we played against Arizona. His presence tonight showed that this is not the same guy that was there at the beginning of the season. He played a really nice game, had some really nice moves. Um, he what are you going to do with the foul? I mean, sometimes it's just really hard when you're big.
Yeah, I don't know. He did like listen. Not all five of his fouls were bad calls. I can't sit here and say
No,
that. But two you could argue. You could certainly argue two of them. Um,
well, it's also the angle because if you have to be straight, so I'm using my finger. I thought it was a horrible call until I saw it from the other angle, and I saw that he was leaning over.
the
Refs going
one
to call that every
the
time.
the one on Bradley towards the end of the game. I think that's what you're mentioning. I thought at first it was a bad call. You see it on the other angle, fine call. I think for me the one that sticks out was Awaka was elbowing him in the head,
Oh
and
my
then they called the
God,
foul on
him.
Gamba. But we got to move on because we're going to be stuck on the refs for a while here. Um, even though we're going to go back to them because there are a few more comments. Raheem Jones.
But, hey, wait. By the way, to everyone who's in the chat, it's 1 o'clock in the morning Eastern time. I don't know where you are, but thank you for hanging in there. This is what makes it fun to know that, especially we won, and that we're going to go do our YouTube uh, broadcast, and that we have listeners. So thank you to all of you for your comments.
And if you're up with us on the East Coast at 1 o'clock in the morning and you haven't subscribed to the channel, what are you doing? You're part of the family here. You gotta subscribe. All right, Raheem Jones. This team is just too deep. You can't stop everybody. I'm not gonna get on them defensively because I think that the refs were being quick on that whistle, but we got to clean up our transition defense. That last point, Raheem, is spot on because Alabama is gonna get out and run, and we've got to be better in transition defensively because they are. That's what they do, and it's going to
Well,
be
let's
a.
face it, from tonight's games, it was Alabama 113, Duke 100 in a 40-minute game.
Well, yes, but Arizona has a bit better of a defense than BYU, which had by far the worst defense of any Sweet 16 team, and wanted to play the same style as Alabama. In retrospect, that should have been a game where I put some money on Alabama, but we move on.
And all I know is from how many threes they had, I got to brush it off. It was just raining threes by Alabama. They
Yeah,
were unbelievable.
Mark Sears had a rough start to the tournament, and he let all of his misses, all of his frustration out, and he was on fire. And then Aiden Holloway caught fire, and we'll talk more about Alabama tomorrow.
Who's
Uh,
next?
Marcus Styles, the refs, the refs, the refs. Yeah, I,
There's not much you can add to that, but
no, it's a great comment. It is a great comment. Joe M. You're 100% right about being a good game for Duke to build off on. The experience of UNC coming back in those other close games really helped us in this one. That whole ACC tournament experience, I think, was really important for Duke to be in a number of close games. Now, Cooper wasn't a part of any of those games, But I think it was really good for the team to get experience playing without him, get experience playing in close games, and that the UNC game beforehand that you're mentioning, Joe, really important for Duke to just have experience. Or actually, I think you're talking about the one in the ACC tournament, but even the one at the end of the season was good because it was a close game, tightly contested. UNC took the lead early in the second half. So it was nice to have those before this because I think if we would have come into this having run over all of our opponents by the 30 points that we had been in that 7-game stretch post Clemson, I'm not sure this would have gone the same way. So it was good to be tested in those games.
Well, and think about it, with 100 points, and on a night that you would say Cooper Flagg 30 points, what a great game. That means there was 70 other points that we had to rely on the rest of the team for, and boy, did they come in big. They
Sure
were
did.
great.
Joe also says, also, Malawach had that one weird finish that was very soft. Weird shot that I don't remember seeing him doing before. I think he's had that that jump hook, that touch shot. I've seen him do it a few times actually, I would say, Joe, if that's what you're referring to. Lucky me. What was up with the double foul with where one ref called a charge and the other ref called a block? It's another example of why they should move on. It's just massive confusion. And then initially I think the scores table accredited the foul in Arizona to Vasar, who wasn't even involved in the play. So it wasn't a great game for the guys who didn't play, which is kind of strange to say. Ryan Jones. Coop didn't want to go home. We
Nope.
haven't seen that out of him all year. He really flipped a switch for us. He sure did. He was awesome. It was incredible. And also from Ryan, my birthday is Saturday. Happy birthday, Ryan, in advance, and we'll be sure.
Happy birthday, Ryan.
He also says, I really need a Final Four. Hopefully, Duke can deliver that for you, and we can all celebrate your birthday in the post game happily. That is the goal. Raheem Jones. I second that motion, with this being the ref's last game. That double foul with Sion and Del Orso was made with literally no explanation. Was crazy. I don't know what else to add to that. I think, go ahead, JD. You got something?
Well, no. So that's what happens. You see what happens on the court. There's something communicated to the scorers table, but it's not communicated to the announcers. I don't know how many times I was texting you and I said, who committed the foul? They're blowing whistles and the announcers came off. Maybe the announcers have to rely on the scorers table. Maybe that's how they, and there was no communication there either.
No, it was a mess. Strangely, it was so bad that we've spent 10 minutes over 30 minutes talking about that instead of the game, which was a great game. It was a great game.
Well, as you like to correct me, it was a competitive game. No, there were lots of. It was a very competitive game. Great game, definitely in parts of it, and great comeback by Arizona. But the officiating will definitely have to put an asterisk next to any kind of great game here, because the officiating was.
You're right. It was a competitive game, and the officiating takes it away from a great game, because you're right. In a great game, you don't spend 15 minutes talking about the refs. That's not how that works. So you're right. I appreciate your correction. Lucky me. Sion James was great with his 3-pointers tonight. He sure was. And they were all timely. He started the game with one. He hit one to start the second half. He had one late in the second half. They were all timely threes. And when he hit the one late in the with like 4 minutes left, I wrote in my notes, "Sion, our savior," because he was, it was great to have. Now, I did say I was going to mention this before. He uncharacteristically had a number of turnovers today. He had one or two late, um, that aren't typical of Sion, and we're going to have to be better in that category against Alabama. We had 10 turnovers as a team, which really isn't bad. But we've seen this Duke team play, through games. I mean, obviously, Mount St. Mary's, they had 2 turnovers. Not expecting that, but it would be nice to be, 6 or 7 for the game.
I also like that we didn't have too much of a problem with the press.
Yes.
They
Overall.
threw overall.
Yeah.
Not too much of a problem. They eventually either got it into Coop or Sion's hands, and then pass, and we were over midcourt. And that's going to be important down hopefully the stretch drive against some of the really quality defensive teams.
Agree. Joe M. True. This is on Caleb's shot that was blocked at the end, or with 2 minutes 40 seconds to go by Mal. I thought that three was going in. I also maybe wish that Evans came in during that stretch where Duke was up 10 plus. Evans made a three right away, and he seemed to keep up with Love on defense. He did do a good job on Love defensively. I noticed that as well. I agree with you, Joe. I think he should have got a run in the second half when we were. I mean, there was a point where we were up by 19. I think that would have been a good time to get him some minutes. Cato 12. Hey, Duke would have won by 25. Refs kept Arizona in game. Arizona fans should be thankful they didn't get embarrassed. Yeah.
We can only imagine, as you said, Jack, that somewhere there are Arizona fans taking this game apart the way we do.
Yep.
And they're going on that hook and hold. Why didn't they get that call? And the game would have been completely different because they would have been free throws and then they would have possession. They're going to. I mean, it just was a horribly officiated game.
Yeah. Joe M. Shire played deep early tonight, but he was kind of forced to with the fouls. Yeah. He did get. No, I think it was the regular cast characters. Evans, Foster. Gave Foster an opportunity. Didn't like the three he took. That was pretty much it. We'll see. Foster's certainly on a tight leash moving forward. Raheem Jones. That's a fact. Nathan, he played good D, and he was passing the ball where Khan and Coop were able to get downhill and score. Yeah, I think that's on Sion, if I'm correct, but I might be wrong. Michael Joyner, great win, Duke. Listen, as you said a couple weeks ago, JD, it doesn't matter if we win by 1 or we win by 41. The win is a win at this time of year, and they're all great wins. They may not be all great games, but they're all great wins. Raheem Jones. I'm not scared of Bama. They can beat UNC, but this is a whole different beast. I think Duke takes pride in being the only ACC team left. We about to show these SEC teams what a real blue blood looks like. 100. And listen, JD, you said we would get through the first 3 games, and then the real test would begin. I think the real test began here, I will say, in the 3rd game, and they will continue to.
That does bring us to the score of the game, and if I can, I would say.
Go ahead.
I came out with the final score being 89-84, and all of the comments rightly said way too basic, not directly, but they came in with lower scores and lower predictions based on the performance of both teams. And at 89-84, I was pretty close on the margin. I had a 5-point and it was a 7-point. but I was off by 10 points for both teams. So we're going to do a little research to see if anyone, in the predictions came closer on it. But I thought it was going to be a high scoring affair. I didn't think it was going to be this high scoring, but I thought it would be a close game.
Interesting. So Nathan Mabe says, I was more worried about Arizona than I am about Bama. And we're gonna get to that, guys. We're gonna get to that more in depth. Um, it's to your point, Nathan. It's all about matchups, and Arizona. They, especially with their 5-man lineup, Vesar played much better than I thought he would. He was pretty interchangeable with Awaka, who did not have the impact I thought he could, like Omir, who was just a monster on the glass.
He
But
also had
Vase
foul trouble.
he did, which has been a
He did.
problem for Awaka. But in fairness, so did all of our bigs except for Malik Brown. Um, but that lineup with Love and Bradley and KJ Lewis, he did a good job. Even though Cooper had 30 points, he did get a couple of steals on Cooper. Defensively, those guys, Carter Bryant and then Vasar, like they did a good job, and Caleb Love was unbelievable. I said in one of our, I think it was like the preview for the tournament, I thought somebody would have to go for like 40 to beat Duke if it was going to be an individual effort, and he almost did. He almost did. Um, and just hat tip to Caleb Love. Southern Beard, heck yeah, a win is a win. Yeah, Nathan Mabe, it's 104 in North Carolina. Where it's now almost 1:30 in the morning. I don't know what we're doing up, but that was a fun game because we won. This would be a lot. This would be a very
Oh,
miserable time to try to be doing this if Duke would have lost that game. Um, all right, try to go through a little quicker here. Joe M, I was also worried about Arizona when we got the draw. I guess I mean your score was close. I felt like we were gonna win this game by 10 or more, and I was wrong. I mean, there was moments where I felt like I was really right, especially when we were up by 19, but did not happen. Michael Joyner, Duke retired. Caleb sure did. Um, Raheem Jones, I'm in North Carolina. You know the Brotherhood gonna stay locked in. Can't take any of these games for granted. Gotta cherish all of them. You know, Raheem, that's a great point. Because this team has been a lot of fun to watch throughout this year, and the fact that we get one more game with this team is special. So, to your point, gotta cherish them.
for it, with at least three of them scheduled to be first round draft picks, maybe more, given Foster's, not Foster,
Proctor,
Proctor's shooting during the ACC tournament and everything. So I think the comment is very, this may be the only time we get to see these guys, and especially
maybe
Cooper Flagg.
these guys are not coming back, especially those three freshmen. They're good for them. I'm very happy for them, and we gotta
We certainly want to see that. Well, we'll get to see them one more time, and we're
yes,
hoping for three.
but certainly one more that we get to enjoy. Joe M, good analysis with BYU and Bama. Appreciate that, Joe. Benny Frank, waiting on Slim to win us a game. We gonna need him.
Yep.
I think it's coming. I think it's gonna be this next game, and I'll save the reason why for the preview. But I think it's coming. Um, let's see. Beck Anderson.
Jack, I want to know, like, we know that I'm I'm up way past my bedtime.
Yeah.
And I just want to know why all these people are up with us and it's now 1:21 in the morning. I
We're
mean,
all
I
we're all
get
big Duke fans. We're all big Duke
it's
fans. This
true.
is
It's true. It's great. This is just like as long as there are comments, let's keep going.
well, we've got a few more. We've got a few more here. So, um, let's see. Beck Anderson, that game made me proud to be a Blue Devil man. Let's stack a couple more. Yeah,
And a
yeah.
big shout out, and I want to clarify what I was getting at.
Go ahead.
Jose, the trainer, when I said to you, so it was after someone's 3-point that they caught him. And what he was doing was he was, like you said, he was animated, but he was like, yeah. And it was like watching Jose do that. And it was just fun. And then at one point, you have always made a point of saying the Duke bench, and it was starting to get tight. And it was Caleb Foster that I noticed
that
got up first.
Yep.
To say, hey, come on, guys, everyone up. And I think that's part of this team as well, that they're willing to cheer for each other.
Yeah. And to Caleb's credit, he played a couple of minutes in the first half. He could have been a little upset about not getting in, but it was all about the team, and he's been really consistent with that. In his interviews I've caught these past couple of weeks, where whatever Coach Shire needs him to do, he's going to do to help the team win. And I thought you're spot on with that point. Nathan Mabe. Would love to see Evans. It's just that he shoots as soon as he gets it, and sometimes that works, but most of the time it don't. And yeah, it's a fair point. There's not much shot selection with with Quick Draw, as you've dubbed him. As I've said, the responsibility is on the person who passes him the ball as to whether he's going to shoot a good shot or not. Because as soon as now we have seen as of late a couple times where he's turned down a three and driven it, or taken a mid-range shot, or even passed it. But to your point, Nathan, 9 times out of 10 it's going up, and you gotta just deal with it. So yeah. All right, a couple more here. Let's see. Raheem, we have to be clean on the boards against Bama. Can't allow the second chances to kick out for threes. And we also need to force them into shots that they don't want to take. A mid-range jumper. Spot on, Raheem. It's going to be important that our bigs win the rebounding battle against, Cliff I always forget how you say his last name. Amarui. I definitely butchered that. I apologize. He's a good defensive center. Grant Nelson. There are other bigs who come into the game. Diabate, who's does a really good job of getting loose balls and rebounds. We're gonna have to be spot on in that aspect of our game because, as you said, can't allow those second chance threes off of the rebound. And I was gonna say this in the preview. I will say it in the preview. That is the right defensive mentality. Is they do not want to shoot mid-range jumpers. We've got to force them off the three and make them shoot mid-range jumpers because they literally avoid them like the plague. And if we can make them do that, they will be uncomfortable, and it will help Duke to have a much better chance in this game.
So, that makes me think of Mal and his hands. I pointed out a number of times that on defense, when he's rebounding and he's definitely above someone, he doesn't control the ball enough so that someone can flick it out between his hands, and some people have commented he looks soft. And what I don't get is on offense, his hands are so good in terms of, I got to get to the ball's here, it's here. I know that it's just a quick pass, but he clamps on it and he dunks. And why he's sometimes not the same way on defense, I don't understand, but we're going to need it. We're definitely going to need it to prevent the ball from going back out.
Yes. All right. Let's see. Raheem also says, as to why we're all staying up, this is a family. And Nathan May says, Duke MFer, which is a DDMF, which I had to just look up. I'd seen that before, but I didn't know what it meant. So I appreciate that, Nathan. I'm not as plugged in as I should be. We all staying up. Joe M says, let's go. And Joe M also says, thanks, Joe. I completely forgot in the excitement here. Medals for the night. And, man, well, obviously the gold is quite easy. That's Cooper Flagg. No doubt about it. Then it gets a little bit tricky, but I think I'm going to go with Khan. He had 20 points for the silver. And I'm going to go with man, it's really hard between Sion and Mal for the bronze. I'm going to go with Sion because I feel like, well, Miles' defense and his shot blocking was really important. His buckets were all, as much as they were nice finishes by him, a couple of them were certainly half of them were nice setups by Coop. And I feel like Sion had really timely threes. So and he had good defense. So I'm gonna give him the credit for the bronze in this one. Anything you want to add? Change, JD?
No, I agree with you on that, although I probably will go to bed thinking about Cooper Flagg having the ball and trying to get it from the out of bounds line, and he's having trouble getting through the defenders, and then he somehow manages to see Mal, and he lofts the ball up over the rim for Mal to dunk it. It looked as if it was a hopeless play.
The one, uh, the the one where the shot clock was running down, and he has
Yeah.
the presence of mind with like 2 seconds left, and Mal didn't convert it, but to throw it up there, I don't even know how he saw. Like it was when they showed the angle, it was like I don't even know what part of him made him think that play was there, but it was, and it was a great pass, and it was just unfortunate it clanged off the rim.
Well, and then of course I will also go to sleep thinking about the shot he took with 3.9 seconds left in the first half, where he's like 7 feet or 8 feet behind the 3-point line, and he just goes up, hit it. It it was not even close to being like, some guy is hoisting it to try to be up there. He just went up as if it was a just regular shot, and he practices that shot from 10 feet beyond the arc as a jump shot.
And listen, for as great of a game as Caleb Love played, his bad shot at the end of the first half let that happen
Yep.
because they had the ball, the shot clock's turned off, and all he had to do, he took a step back three from, I mean, not much like closer than when Cooper shot his, and all he could have took that shot with time expiring, but he takes it early with like 7 seconds to go, which lets Duke get the ball and Coop shoot that shot, and that changed the way the game was going into the second half, the momentum.
Well, right, because Khan had hit the three. Then Caleb Love had the opportunity to tie it again, but one of the rare bad plays on his part, which resulted in the ball being in Cooper Flagg's hands, and we got out at half up 6 after it was just back and forth and back and forth and back.
Raheem, wish this was the old days. Then I could look forward to seeing the group grow with each other. Yeah, it's a good point. Um, it does make you appreciate guys like Proctor and even Foster, who it's only his second season, and I know it hasn't been a great year for him. But it makes you like this is Proctor's third year in the program. It's kind of crazy. And he's been pretty much a starter throughout his entire 3 years. The way it's gone
So
as of late, it's unusual.
so two quick points about that. One is, what did we see? How many players entered the portal?
They had the number at 1,700, which
Which is mind blowing to
yeah,
me, but we did the math and we said, I guess that's possible. We'll leave that for another day.
yep,
And the second thing is, it takes me back to something Dante DiVincenzo said, which was, and this really goes to Raheem's point, had the portal and NIL been there when Villanova went on their two championship runs with Brunson and Bridges and Hart and Dante. Dante said maybe that group wouldn't have been together if
mm.
they were in this era of the portal, and it would have been harder to keep it together. So I think we really do have to treasure this. I really am looking forward to Saturday.
All right, I'm going to skip ahead here, and Nathan Mabe says Man has the bronze for me. The defense with 4 fouls was killer. I can't argue with that. He was awesome. I just sided with Sion because I thought his threes were timely, but his defense was really important. You could tell, as good as Gangba played, there was a difference defensively for Duke when Malawach was on the court. Um, and Raheem says it's really no wrong answers after Coop. Agreed. And Nathan also says we'll wrap up here. JD, Love kept them in the game, but also shot them in the foot. It was I think listen, a lot of times you could get on Caleb Love for shooting them, for shooting them out of a game, but this isn't the night to do that for me. So just a great win for Duke, and we'll be excited to have the preview of the Alabama game out for you guys late tomorrow afternoon, maybe early evening. In fairness, but we're still dancing. We've got one more game,
We're still
and
dancing.
it's 1:30 in the morning Eastern time here. It's been a lot of fun with all of you guys joining the chat, staying up with us. As you guys said, we're all family. This is Duke, and looking forward to seeing you guys in the comments for the preview and the post game of the Alabama game. Until then, peace.